Hi, Maria here. Welcome to my channel. Today, we are going to be talking about Eclaire by Lattafa and comparing it to Bianco Latte. Is it close? Is it worth the money? We're going to discuss everything. But before we get started, if you haven't subscribed, just go ahead and hit that button. Join the weird, wonderful family. It would be amazing to have you part of the community, and let's get into this. So I have a sample of Giardini di Toscana Bianco Latte. I've worn this probably 4 or 5 times. So I'm very familiar with how it works. And so then when I got this one, what I wanted to see, as most people have been commenting, I've seen a lot of comments that this is just like this, like pretty much identical. I really wanted to break them both down and kind of give you a really good comparison about how they are. So I wore them both at the same time. I could experience all the different stages of the perfume and really weigh in and give you some information so that you can make an informed decision. First comparison, I thought I would look at the notes and give you kind of the note breakdown and go through that a little bit. So in Eclair, the top notes are caramel, sugar, and milk. The top note in Bianco Latte is just caramel. In the middle notes, you have honey and wildflowers in Eclair. And in Bianco Latte, you have coumarin and honey. In the base notes, in Eclair, you have vanilla, praline, and musk. And in Bianco Latte, you have just vanilla and musk. So Eclair has a few extra notes. It has sugar, milk, praline, and flowers. Those are the main differences. With Bianco Latte, the only one that is excluded in Eclair is the coumarin. So to me, coumarin smells very, very sweet, almost like powdered sugar, with just a hint of kind of an almondy feel. I'm going to start with what I always think of when I smell Bianco Latte. So whenever I've worn it, it kind of reminds me of Rice Krispie treats. We called them Rice Krispie squares when we were growing up. So kind of a little bit of a cereal vibe. This has a lot of vanilla. Like, I definitely get the vanilla. You can smell the caramel. It smells really quite powdery to me. And it has a similar powdery edge that something like Chocolate Greedy from Montal. When I put Chocolate Greedy on, I usually cough. I do the same thing with this. So there's some sort of powdery aspect to this that reminds me of the Rice Krispies. There's that little hint of kind of almost an almond feel in here. And then you get all this scrumptious, gooey deliciousness in this. So it's definitely like a delicious, tasty treat. It's uber gourmand, uber sweet. It's quite thick, feels almost opaque. So it feels like there's no clearness in it at all. It smells like it would be white, caramely, creamy, that kind of feel. So that's what I get out of Giardini di Toscana's Bianco Latte. I love this fragrance. I think it's gorgeous. The other thing that I find about Bianco Latte is that for the most part, it's pretty linear. So I get Rice Krispie treats. So vanilla, marshmallow, fluffy, caramel, gooey. That's the feel that I get from this from the get-go, and I have that the whole entire time that it's on my skin. The other thing about Bianco Latte is that I find that the longevity is excellent. So I get at least 8 hours out of this. So great longevity, nice, thick, it's present, it's there for a long time, it's delicious. And bizarrely, even though this is uber, uber sweet, I don't find that it's too sickly in the summertime, although I do feel that this is best in the colder months. But really, you could wear a fragrance like this any time of the year. You just go with lighter sprays. So, Eclair by Lattafa. Everybody has been saying that it's pretty much spot on. In the dry down, I would say that it's spot on. So once these have sat on my skin for about 4 hours, to smell one or the other, they smell very, very similar. In fact, if I smell one and then go to smell this hand, like if I smell this hand with Bianco Latte on and then go to smell this, I can't smell this one. It's like this eats it up. If I smell this one and go to smell this, I can't smell this one. So that tells me that they're very, very similar in the dry down. So 3-4 hours in, they smell almost identical. That said, this doesn't smell like Bianco Latte in the opening. So in the opening, first of all, I find this to be thinner. I honestly also notice the floral. So the floral's very light. It smells kind of like just a very sweet floral. It could be considered a sweet note, but I don't notice any floral at all in Bianco Latte. About 15 minutes in, I can definitely smell just a hint of floral. And I thought I smelt that and then went and looked at Fragrantica. So I didn't look at the notes right away, but I noticed the floral. The floral kind of gave it a little bit of a fruity vibe to me in the opening. I also found this one to be a lot thinner feeling in the opening. When I first put it on the skin, it smelt clear. So whereas Bianco Latte smells milky, like it smells, creamy, and I think thick, gooey, sticky. This one, I think thin, maybe a little bit syrupy, if that makes sense, but certainly not that thick gooiness. Also with Eclair, it's not as powdery. So the Bianco Latte, I get lots of powder in that opening. In the Eclair, I don't get the powder. So this one doesn't make me cough. So I never cough with this one. It's just not as potent in the opening. Now, as it dries down on the skin, it gets, like I said, way more similar. But to begin with, it's not the same. That said, it's close. So I smell one, I smell the other. I can see that this is trying to smell like that or a similar profile, but there's just a few components to this that make it slightly different than the actual Bianco Latte. What I find a lot of times with dupes, not always, but a lot of times, especially in the opening, it feels like the shell of the actual fragrance. So you have kind of the outside edges of the fragrance. So you go, oh, that smells like whatever, but you don't get the same depth. You don't get the nuances. It's not, honestly, it's a facsimile. So it's like art. You can look at one painting, and for some people, they look at a knockoff and they go, oh, it's just the same. For other people, where they're really, really wanting certain aspects to a fragrance, they're going to notice things like it smells a little thinner. It doesn't smell quite as rich and deep and fluffy as Bianco Latte. They're going to notice things like the florals. They're going to notice that maybe the honey smells just slightly different because they notice that kind of stuff because they've trained their nose. And I'm not trying to make it seem like one is better than the other, but to me, to say that something smells identical when it absolutely doesn't, that said, many people might smell this and go, oh, it smells just identical. But like if you're really into the niche fragrance and you go, oh, I want to save a couple bucks, should I go with this? No, you shouldn't, because you're going to be disappointed. If you want the overall vibe of Bianco Latte and you want to smell like it in the dry down, like if I put this on and walked by someone that knew Bianco Latte, likely they wouldn't notice the difference. But if you know the difference, then you know the difference, if you know what I mean. The other thing about Eclair is that it lasts about 6 hours on the skin. So, and it never projects and has the same presence as Bianco Latte. That said, this may get stronger as time goes on because sometimes that happens. But currently, it's not got the same chutzpah that this has for sure. So this is very nice, but is it exact? No. In the dry down though, pretty much identical. If someone walked by with this on, I would think that they were wearing Bianco Latte. It's only when I start to pick them apart that I really start to notice. And definitely in the opening, I get that little hit of floral / almost fruity. This feels more like a clear syrup. And this feels more like a thick, fluffy, caramelly, substantial, if that makes sense. Now, the other thing that I want to bring up is the price. So currently on Parfum Exquise's site, this costs $195 Canadian. And there is no shipping at Parfum Exquise. This with the price of the fragrance and the shipping, this cost $79.95. So like the price was less, the shipping with Fragrance Buy is like $12.99. So this ended up being about $79.95. So $79.95 for a knockoff, this is $195. So you have to make a decision. Is having the original worth it? To me, even the bottle of the original reminds me of what it smells like. So a little bit creamy, a little bit white. That's what I get. I love this bottle. I think it's really cool. If I really love a fragrance, I think it's worth spending saving and spending the extra money. It's better longevity, smells thicker, smells richer, a little more luxurious, and you're paying $110 more. So that's not a huge difference. When a fragrance is like a quarter of the price or a third of the price, then I'm more tempted to go with a really, really excellent dupe. I like the bottle on this one. I love the bottle on Bianco Latte. For me, I would say if I didn't have this now, I would save my money and wait and purchase the Bianco Latte, to be honest. So if this comes down in price, which oftentimes it does, then this one becomes a lot more enticing. Currently, I like Bianco Latte better. It's thicker, it's richer, it's got a few more nuances in it. This is nice. In the dry down, they smell almost identical, but it's not the same experience. It just isn't. When you look at purchasing a knockoff versus the real thing, you're looking at what you value, right? So if cost is your most important issue, well, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with going with a dupe. But if you like the art form, if you like going for original, if you just like the whole kind of luxury experience, well, then to me, there's nothing wrong with going something like this. And especially being it's under the $200 mark, it's basically the same price as a designer fragrance these days. So it's not that much more money. So those are my thoughts. I want to know what your thoughts are. Like, really, I feel a little more sober in this video for some reason, because to me, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Everybody's opinions and what they value is different and important to them. So I think it's fine. I don't think it's exact. And I'm really tired of hearing it's just like, because then people get duped into buying something. And what if it's not exactly what they were anticipating? If they've smelt this and they got this, they might go, oh, it's close enough, or they might go, oh, it smells just like it. It is very close, but it's not exact. So some people might be disappointed because it doesn't have the same longevity. It's not a dupe. It doesn't have the same longevity. It doesn't have the same thickness. It's got a little bit of just a hint of a floral, slight, almost fruity feel in the opening. So they do not smell the same at all in the opening. After about 2-3 hours, they smell virtually identical. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I feel that way about all the fragrances. Middle Eastern is really fun. The other thing that you have to think about, and it's not always the case because anybody can smell good at any budget. But it's the same thing as fast fashion. You know, some people really value having a few really high quality pieces in their collection. And I'm not saying that niche is always high quality, because that's not the case, but oftentimes it is. Better quality ingredients. Someone's actually taken the time to create the fragrance rather than just knock it off. So some people just want lots of fashion. So they're going to shop at places like Zara and different places like that, and they don't care whether it lasts them 10 years. Other people, they want something that's substantial and that's quality made and that's thoughtful. That's really important to them. So they're willing to spend a little bit more money and have less. So really, it just depends on what your values are. I don't think that there's a right or wrong. If I were to do it again, I'd save my coins and get Bianco Latte. That said, if you don't have the coins to spend, or you feel uncomfortable spending an extra $110 for kind of a designer type price tag these days, well then Eclair it's going to give you a very similar vibe. So that's my thoughts. I got to be honest with you guys. I find it hard to do videos like this that's a comparison, because 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to say what everybody else is saying. I'm not going to just gloss over and go, oh yeah, it smells just like it. It's practically the same. No, there are differences. And I want to tell you that kind of stuff. So this is a bit of a rant, I think. I'd like to know what your thoughts are. If you've smelt Bianco Latte and you've smelt this, weigh in and say whether you think it's really close or not. It is really close, but it's not exact. So those are my thoughts. Am I glad that I have this one? When I look at the price of 195 versus 80, if this would have been 40, I would have been thrilled. So it just depends on the price for me. When it's getting up there to almost $100, I'd rather spring for the real deal. If this gets down in price, this is actually really good. And I think that the longevity will improve. It's just not got the same thick kind of powdery aspect that is kind of like, to me, it's got the bones. This has the bones of this, but it's missing the meat inside, which is kind of that powdery aspect, a little bit almost of a cereal feel with some almond. This, I don't get any almond. I definitely get the honey, definitely get the sweet. As it dries down, you get more of that ooey gooey feel, but it's just missing some of the depth. So it feels like a facsimile rather than the actual artwork. But is it good? Yes. So those are my thoughts. Weigh in, let me know what you think. Again, I don't ever want to dismiss people's feelings or thoughts, because I think that all of them are valid. It's very subjective. And I also think that you know, our money is precious, and what we value, like where we want to put our money. So some people, they may not value putting that money into a perfume, but they value putting that money into the equity of their home or something that's a little bit more long term. So a cheap perfume works for them. So you know what I mean? Like, everyone's different. So I don't want to ever look at something and go, well, they should be buying the real thing, because really, it literally do you. Like, do you. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm sticking to them. Let me know what your thoughts are. And other than that, have an amazing week. We'll talk to you soon.